following is a production of the University of Minnesota.
This is going to be a little bit difficult to do with a few number, because what we have planned is to have you participate in some forums that have already been set up, so that you are added into various groups and you can actually respond and see what it's like from a student view to be using this. And then we were going to have you set up a few forums of your own and groups, and add people to groups so that you can see how this works. But we'll do what we can do with what we've got. And we start out. You can. What I'd like you to do is log in as you are added to the SSW Technology training. And if you go in, and you will see that, and you can be entered, you can register or log in as a student. Well, you'll go in as a student. So what you want to do is go to Moodle, okay? And then when you log in, you will see section 1 of, do you see that? Section 1?
Yep.
Okay, so
So I'm a student in section 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're in there, okay. Are you, Ron?
I haven't got there yet.
All right.
If you show up in your list of courses, maybe the top one or two top choices.
Oh. I'm fine.
You're
I'm
fine.
just scanning your QR code and it's asking me to sign in on my phone, which is kind
Well,
of...
yeah, because it takes you to the Moodle, I mean, it takes you to Google Mail, and there basically is where it's protected, so you're the
Yeah.
only, you have to sign in.
I'm in there.
You are in it? Okay. So do you want to show them this? We'll kind of work together on it? All
All
right.
right.
So what we've done is we've created, there are 4 different types of forums that you can set up. And when you add a forum from the activity, where it says add an activity, you have 4 options. So we're going to go through forums first?
Yeah, I would show that.
Okay. So you just see this. All right.
So yeah, we have, there are 4 types of forums, and you have standard forum for general use. Well, single simple discussion forum, and if you use that forum, it doesn't work with groups. That's the most simple forum you can have, and all you can have really is one question or one single discussion, and every student is able to reply, but they can only reply to everybody at the same time. You can really subdivide in any way. Then you have a standard forum for general use, and in this forum you can set it up with groups or without groups, but the key point to that forum is that anybody can open a new topic anytime. So, and many topics. You can start one question, one stream of discussion, and then open a new groups of discussions. When each person posts one discussion, well, you can only start one discussion, but then you can reflect on any other topic or discussion that's open. And you're able to respond to any of those discussions as many times as you want to, but you can only start one discussion yourself. In the question and answer forum, there can be a question, the instructor posts a question, and then there may be 10 replies, 20 replies, how many replies there already have been responded to that question. But you cannot see the responses until you answer yourself. You'll just see how many, it'll show a box that says there's a response here, but it'll tell you can only see this response once you respond. So you will be able to tell if people have started responding, but you won't be able to see the responses until you submit a response yourself.
So why don't we look at each of these, and you can get an idea, because now you're logged in as a student, so you should see it as a student, and the course would see it. So if we go to the standard form for general use.
And again, like any other space, you can add a video or a picture to it. You don't have to, when you create it, you can go into the HTML of it and add some sort of, apart from text, you can add a picture, like in this example. And you can add links. So the question itself functions as a web page.
The other thing is that you're an instructor view, right?
Yeah.
So up here, you see this says separate groups, and what's said is all participants. So anytime anybody makes a response, because you're viewing it as all participants, you will see all of the students' responses. Okay? But what Alfonso has done is also created groups. We have a maroon and a gold. And so you could look at them as what specific groups have responded. So, did you create group? Is this a grouping or a group?
That's depending on how many students you have or the assignments you're doing. You decide how many groups you want to have, but also you may change your groups throughout the semester. So in this case, we just divided into 2 groups.
So this forum, this entire forum, since mine says maroon, I'm only able to see things that are posted by maroon.
Right. Is that true for you? Which color are you?
Maroon.
Maroon, okay. So you should be able to see each other's posting. So you could you could add something. So we did this. You can, add a new discussion topic, or respond to one that's here.
Not to the one that Peter set up if you're not in the gold group. So
Right.
you can see the group there. As an instructor, you'll be able to see everything, but as a student, you will only be able to see the responses to your particular group.
So can you see gold?
Nope.
No, okay. Because obviously you're not in the gold group. Only the gold can see their responses.
Right.
So that's when you use separate groups. You use visible groups, you will be able to see them, but you wouldn't be able to collaborate with them. You wouldn't be able to add and extend their discussions. So you should be able to go into these 3 discussions, so you're in the maroon group, and reply to the post.
So why don't you try that?
We have to add a new discussion.
No, you can go into what's already there.
The ones in the bottom, they should all be hyperlinks.
Or you could. You could add a new discussion, except you can also just reply to what's already there.
Right.
So you can reply to any of those discussions, and you can start your own. So there are different ways that you could use this in a class. A way that I've seen it used that I think is helpful is as a place where students respond to questions about the class itself. Let's say that you want them to be able to, they're working with a program, SPSS or a startup, and the student has a question. Well, you can post a response yourself, but if they post a question to the whole forum, then you can also encourage students to respond to each other. So they can also have the interaction and collaborate with each other in that way. So, or just questions about social aspects too. So the limitations of what you use the space for depends on how you structure it, but it has that ability to, anybody can create a topic, or anybody can add to a topic, within the limitations of the groups that they're in.
So did you respond to?
We did. Both Ron and I did.
Okay. So if we refresh, you can see it there. Okay. Yeah, it's a nice place, isn't it?
Well, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. It looks nice in the picture.
Yeah, we took the picture.
Oh,
Oh, there's no. Yeah, I was like, what picture?
Oh,
Well, we used to have a picture, but then we had to, we modified it, but yeah.
Okay. So any questions about that one? That type of group, that type of forum?
As an instructor, I remember, I thought in what was it, there was a way to see things from a student perspective, because I get all funny about it, like, okay, I'm gonna count on the fact that this is working and they can only see what they're supposed to see, but sometimes it's nice to be able to. Is that a possibility?
As a student?
To see it as a student, to be able to see for sure if I'm in, because I've already divided them into groups, so if I'm in group 5, I can pretend, I don't know, I'm just curious.
You have to, the main part of that will be that you have to add yourself to a group as an instructor.
Oh, right, okay.
So when you go into the group settings, it'll be beneath the rest of the students. So when you go into groups, and then from overview to groups, you have,
Yeah.
how every group has, and when you go to add and remove users, they'll be divided by the type of users that you have in that group. So if I wanted to add Moodle support, then it'll be at the bottom, but you'll be able to add instructors too. So if you add yourself as an instructor, but you go into the page as an instructor, you'll see the instructor view. But if you switch your view to a student, and you'll be able to access that group only.
Okay.
And that's a way to make sure that it's divided in the way you want to, and check, at least that's one of the groups.
Unless you tell students what groups they're in, they don't know. They can see their group, along the top when they're in that group. If I'm part of group 6, or I'm part of the gold, or part of the room.
They don't know who's in the group.
But they don't know who else is in the group unless, once they start responding, they do. But initially, unless you tell them, they
So
don't.
on the first day of class, I had that printed out,
Yeah.
because I didn't realize they didn't have that group function.
Right, yeah, that's good to know.
Right. Yeah. Which is kind of a drawback, because it would be nice if they could sort of, rather than say group 1 and then list the names of the people who are in there, but it doesn't work that way. And they don't have the ability to go in and see the groups.
So another type of forum that you have available is a question and answer. And if you go into that forum, you can create new questions, and you can also but you can't see what's posted till you answer the question. So you go to the top question, for example, you shouldn't be able to see this response.
Because you haven't posted yet. Is that true?
It should be the same with all of them.
So when you go into that second group forum, what do you see?
Which, I'm sorry,
The one that's
from the homepage, you mean?
or from forums, you can do it from there. Where you go into this forum question and answer. Is this which one? Yeah.
When you're looking at students, you should the ones that you haven't answered yet. If you haven't replied to the question, you just see here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is I'm sorry, so you're demonstrating a question and answer type of forum.
Right.
Cool.
So if you, for instance, you can see what was added. Now, if you click on that,
Okay, and so,
okay, now she can reply. She can reply to that.
well, I think I have to.
Yeah, you have to.
Right, you have to, or you won't be able to see the others.
So it looked like this until you and it'll show how many people have replied, but you won't be able to see what they replied until you respond yourself.
So you see, what is the value of that?
Yeah.
I can tell you the value
Oh,
of
that's
it.
good.
Okay.
The end of last year, I asked somebody a question in a course about what have you learned in the course, and I didn't have it set up this way. And so the first student gave a comprehensive response.
And they all saw it.
Everybody else says ditto.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
People have to come up with their own.
Yeah, I think a lot of
Ideas.
times you would want everybody to respond their unique thing before a discussion started. Yeah,
Wow.
like
It
working
is.
on an ethics case or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be another.
And they fully thought it through before they are able to see other people's other ideas. Yeah, it's very wow.
And I mean, you can post as many questions as you want to, but with every question, it'll be the same situation. So if you reply to one, you still shouldn't be able to see, I mean, the contents of the other question till you respond to that question. So go question by question. You have to first submit a response before you can get to see everybody else's response. And I think you should be able to, once you respond, to also comment on other people's responses. Right? So then you're able to further the discussion if you saw somebody's comment, a student thought another classmate's comment was particularly insightful or useful.
So once you answer it, you see the names of the other people who responded?
Yeah.
Yep. I can see now, like I responded to the first question and now I can see everybody.
Okay, so any other questions? We'll look at the other next one, the single sample discussion. All right. So open that one.
In this one we use, so one of the benefits of groupings is you can see this little, the title right there, that tells you what grouping it is. So we created 3 groupings. One of them is groups 1 to 10. We randomly divided everybody into 10 groups, all the faculty members. So, and you have, when you create groups, you have randomly assigned, manually assigned, and you can also use divisions according to sections. In this case, there's just 10 groups, but you want only those 10 groups to participate in an assignment, so you can use a grouping to do that. And now, if you only have 10 groups and you only divided the class once into groups, then you don't really need groupings, because every time you select visible or separate groups, you'll take into account all the groups you already generated. But if you divided 2 sets of groups, at one point you divide them into 5 and another time into 4, then you want to use groupings. Otherwise, if you don't, you'll bring both sets of groups together into the assignment when you put separate groups. So in this case, they were just divided into 2, UM colors, and in this case, we divided them into 10 groups.
If there's time before we get done, if we could go back and review groups and groupings.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
So in this case, you should only be able to, is this, okay, so this should be visible to everybody, and let's see.
So so you can reply.
And this choice at the top, where you can select how you want to look at it.
Yeah, that's
So if you pick this with oldest first, some people, they want to just look at the things they hadn't read before. So you have to set it a particular way so it'll light up to show
Yeah,
you.
there is a way you can do that. It'll light up those unread posts, right, and highlight them. And you do that when you set the forum, when you set up the forum.
I feel like that's kind of a default.
Well,
I don't know.
Because sometimes
Sometimes that is not true for you.
Yeah, I mean, you can decide also to, if you want it to be sent to an RSS feed or to your email, if you want to put regular updates or daily updates or every time something's posted. But yeah, I think by default it should have, when there's a new post, it lets you know, but you can take that default off, so it won't notify you somebody submits a new post. In this case, when you use this is a simple discussion. Right? In a simple discussion forum, you want to avoid groups. So there's a grouping in here, but when we use the grouping, we said no groups. So by using no groups, anybody can reply and respond without it being divided by groups. And if you use any divisions within this forum, it wouldn't work well. We tried it with different types of arrangements, and they were all, you wouldn't be able to reply. So when you use a simple discussion forum, just
it's available to everybody.
Yeah.
And what's the difference between simple discussion and general then, or are you going
In general, you can post a new question. In a simple discussion, once a question is started, that's the only question you
okay,
have.
so nobody can start a new question.
Yeah, you can't start a new topic.
So if you really want to limit it to one thing, and you want to keep them focused on that, use this. And it's for everybody to respond. Didn't we do it so we had groups, but had visible, and then you could see, it still was, everybody could respond, but you could, no, I guess that wasn't true, that was a different one.
Yeah, in the next one. But this one, we just have everybody together, and I mean, you can continue the same discussion, and that's all you really can do with this forum. It's set up to be simple and not to have any additional features that can complicate how you set it up. But it's also, I mean, you can use groups with it, or either visible or invisible.
So I was thinking this might be good if you had an article or something that you just wanted to keep the focus on one specific element, and because you thought it was important and want to generate discussion on it, probably be a good one to use.
Now at the top you have ways in which you can have the form be displayed. So it can be displayed with the oldest first, or showing you the newest comment first. You can display it in threaded form. If you go to threaded, it'll be collapsed. So you only see, it'll be more like your Google email. And if you have it in flat form, every post is expanded. And then you can also have it in nested form. Which is just,
We need more responses.
yeah, we need more responses. And then the last type of forum that we set up is each person within a visible group. So groups are visible in this forum, but there are groups. So you can see at the top, this account's part of group 6. That's the structure. I can see all the groups. So you should
But you can see what other groups now have responded. See. But you can't add to their discussion. You can
I
only
can
do it.
see what the other groups, so is that, so Alfonso, or either one of you, sorry. So as an instructor, I can decide when I set up the forum if people can see all of them and only respond to their own group, or if people can only see their own group?
Yes, and you do that when you say make group visible in setting up the forum.
Okay.
It says groupings, group and groupings. And so one of the options is visible. So in this one, you're making it visible to everybody, but only those that they're a part of can respond to it.
And so you can see every group, but yeah, you will have add a new discussion topic in the group that you're part of. And if you have invisible groups or separate groups, you wouldn't have this scroll bar at the top. I mean, it's a structured group, but a student wouldn't have that.
I have it. Oh,
Yeah.
because it's visible.
Yeah.
Got it.
If I change the settings to separate groups, you wouldn't be able to.
Okay.
So I think this might be nice if you've got something that we want students to be able to work on it in a group, but then there's input, or at least they can, they're all working on something similar or the same kind of assignment, but you have them working in groups, but they can still see what the other groups are doing.
And then we use groupings to also create a special assignment. So what groupings also allow you to do is you don't only need to, you can make separate groups with all the students. So you can make group 1, 2, 3, 4, all the students, group 1, 2, 3, all the students, and keep them separate through groupings. But you can also develop an assignment for a few groups in particular, so just a percentage of your class. So you want just group 2 and 3 to be part of an assignment and have that assignment only available to them independently or only available to them in visible groups, but only to them, so they can see each other, but only those two groups can add information. And you want to use the grouping for those two groups, so you create a grouping that includes group 2 and 4, for example, and once they access here, in this one, instead of the 10 groups, only groups 1, 2, 4, and 6 are able to comment and add to the discussion. And they're separate, so they wouldn't be able to look at the other group's discussion, but they'll all be able to submit only those 4 groups, and the other 6 groups wouldn't be able to access. They'd be able to access the assignment, but they wouldn't be able to send any information. And then,
So we should go through groups and groupings.
so what we wanted to do now is create a group and show how you create a group. So at the top you have 3 different web pages that explain how to make them, if you have any questions, how to make groupings, how to create groups, and how to work with both groups and groupings. And we'll also go ahead and create one. So you want to go to the administration tab and groups. And then once you're there, you have, just have an overview. In this case, we have the 3 groupings. It's divided by groupings and then all the subgroups. And then it'll show you at the end, if you don't have any groupings, all the groups that don't have a grouping.
I'm a student. So,
Yeah, you
Okay,
can.
now you're in section 3, both of you. So if you go to groups, are you in your section? Have you gone? So if you go to groups.
Do I have a
Oh no, you're not, because you're as a student.
Yeah.
Right.
Have
Ron has.
I can go in my class.
Yeah. But I can add you as an instructor. Ron, you have instructor status in this.
no, I don't.
Section 3, you don't.
Well, section 1, I guess I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in section 1 too.
We're both in section 1,
We're both in section 1.
but you should also be in section 3.
So should we go back to Moodle Home and go into section 3?
Yeah, you can stay. Yeah, you can stay where you are. I mean, you can go back to Moodle, leave that one you're in now open.
Oh.
Yeah, if you do create a new tab and go into the other.
So I've had you
Three.
both.
Oh, okay, there I am.
You're both in.
Yep.
Okay, so you see in section 3.
All the way at the bottom of the Moodle homepage is section 3.
So in there, you should be able to add some new users and add users to a group. So if you want to create a group, you have 3 choices at the bottom. Are you in the group's creation page or?
Do you want to create some?
So you see, right now, there's nothing there. There's no
So,
groups.
wait, so this is the, so we went from.
You should only have, I think they only have 2 ways of creating groups because we're not linked to people. So if we're linked to people, so they have another option. So you can create it manually or randomly.
I don't see what you're talking about. I see that I'm in section 1, I don't have it.
Okay, you have to go to section 3.
Yeah, go to section 3.
Go back to your
Open
Moodle.
a different tab.
Oh,
That's your Moodle home sheet? Okay. Yeah, so you should see a section, same thing when you click on there. You're right, section 3, yeah, go there. That's it. Okay. Now to go to groups. All right. And then if you click on the middle tab there where it says groups. Okay. So now you can create a group either manually, and right now you only have 2 people who are in the course basically. So you don't have a lot of options. You could create a group for 1.
Yeah, you can create a random.
You could add other people in here
Right, so
for
save your group.
the fun of it.
Now,
I mean, they could go ahead and add people because it's not a visible group, visible course. So if they add them, they would.
I'll be in your group.
Oh, you have made this visible.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Who are the renegades?
What's that?
Who are the renegades?
You were one.
Okay, so you both have 2 groups with the same people in it, right?
Well, we didn't have a lot of choices.
No, you don't have a lot of choices. But you could add, like, do you know how to add people to your course? Why don't we show them that?
Why?
Just add a few other people.
Oh, I just, in my real course, I would never,
You wouldn't have to.
no.
But go to assign roles.
I don't want to know how.
Okay. And then let's add some people as students. So just say student, click on the student link. And then let's go down and you can add me, P. Dimma, down the bottom. Just type in my username.
There are too many users.
If you type into the search engine,
No, just type in the search engine down the bottom.
and just type, usually if you type the X500, it's the quickest way to find a user. So, keep there.
Yeah. So now you don't have to do that because Ron's already done it. So Linda, add you.
Right. Nice.
I know that, L. Jones. I got your username, Jones.
Jorn. Lisa Johnston.
What are you looking for? Priscilla Gibson?
No, we got it. Oh, we got it.
All right.
So yeah, once you add them, and if you want to add somebody with a hidden role, you have to click the add. And if you add it that way, they wouldn't. The rest of the students wouldn't be able to tell what role they have.
So you can have like a secret member, you can have a secret, like I could put Linda in my social justice forum.
And nobody would know she's there except you and she.
Ooh, creepy. Interesting.
And you can have
Doesn't the
people.
president have an email?
You're gonna add it.
I'm trying.
You're trying to. I think so, yeah.
You can add it to the renegade group?
It's probably Prez.
And you can add instructors, non-instructor editors, non-instructors, students, participants, and visitors.
Maybe he's not in
You can add
the
who as a visitor.
little database.
Could add,
Yeah, that you get here.
maybe he has to have a secret now. You couldn't know it missing every time.
Okay, so you got a few people now that you can add groups.
I have a feeling that.
And if you want, try creating groups both randomly and manually, and you can see the different
Okay,
settings.
let's try it with manual.
Okay, so now Linda's group has 2 people in it. If you gotta go to Groups tab. And so if you highlight that, yeah, okay.
What's a naming scheme?
That's, you have to figure out, you're doing in random groups, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have what's there, which is already you can either do an A
Oh, I see.
or number. So, and it says there, if you want to use a number, then you would take that symbol that's there away and put the symbol number there. And then it'll create random groups 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Otherwise, it creates random groups A, B, C, D, E.
So the number symbol is
Makes
for
a
number
number.
groups,
Right.
and the at symbol is for letter groups. You can't, and then can you go in and change the names of the groups later to make them like maroon and
Yes.
gold and all
Yeah.
that?
You can edit group settings.
Yeah.
And then, oh, create a grouping, no, so then I don't, okay. Should I create it in grouping? Is it gonna start to get,
Well, we'll show you. So you have two groups now? Is that it?
you're talking to me?
Total?
Yeah, if you have a group of the same users, then go ahead and go to the grouping section and try to create a grouping. And I mean, a grouping usually has, it doesn't have to have more than one group, but some people use just one group within a grouping when they want just a particular group of students to have that assignment and they're already within a group. So you can create a special assignment with a particular grouping that includes only one group. So, I mean, they could include from one group to all the groups.
So basically groupings is just sort of another header, right? So here's an example from my class. So I have divided students up into different facilitator groups. So I could have a grouping called facilitator groups, and then I could have another grouping called final assignment groups because they're going to work together on their final paper, and then they would be like group A, B, C of who's going to do it. Is that right?
Yeah, then you'd have, so you'd have two groupings of different, the groups would be different in each grouping.
Right.
So then the question is, what do you, when you create, say, a forum or something, and you want to use that grouping because now you want everybody to be in there? Or, because
Right.
if you only wanted the assignment group and the facilitator group, you don't need a grouping for that.
I don't need a grouping.
No, because you just are, you are basically adding those, well, if you wanted to keep them separate,
No.
no, you don't care.
Like I would do a forum for facilitator groups and a forum for assignment groups, but I wouldn't need them to interact with each other. And then any other forum where I wanted everyone to see, I can just do all participants.
Well,
And I
then
don't
you should
need
actually
groupings?
create a grouping, right?
Yes?
Yeah. Anytime you want a set number of groups to access a resource and not the other set of groups,
Then
Yes,
it
you
should
want
just
need a
groupings.
grouping.
Okay.
Right.
And do when, like, I've already created the groups for the facilitators, and I won't know the groups for final assignment until farther into the semester. Should I still make the facilitator groups a grouping now, or can I wait until I make another group?
Wait.
you can wait.
I
And
can wait, and it
Because-
won't mess up the forums.
it will mess up if the once you make it. If you originally made an assignment without a grouping, but you selected separate or visible groups, and then you go ahead and create a grouping. What happens is the original assignment, since it didn't have a grouping, it's always going to take into account every grouping made. So
Okay.
if you make new groups for another grouping, they'll be included in that assignment too.
Alright, so I should probably, if I know ahead of time, I should probably make it into a grouping, even if
Yes.
there's one grouping.
So you create the assignment
So
from
I
the
link the
beginning.
forum to the grouping and not to the groups. Wow, I can't believe I followed, okay, yeah. That was my big
Well,
question.
When you make the assignment, it's not either or. You have to do both. You have to
Right.
select whether you want visible or invisible groups or separate groups, and the grouping.
Yes, I saw that.
You have to do both.
So I'll make the grouping first and then I'll make the forum.
Because if you select a grouping but you don't select the group, it won't take into account the grouping really.
Yep.
So because one thing we tried to do was, what if we select a grouping, but then we want a forum that everybody within the grouping can access? So when we had these four groups in the special assignment, we're like, well, what are the ways that we can use that grouping when we create a forum so that they have a space to submit an assignment by themselves? So group 1, group 2, group 4, and 6 have a space but separate, or they can see each other's assignments. And the third choice that we saw was available was, what if the four groups have just a general space for themselves? I mean, a separate space, but all 4 groups together, and that didn't work. So we could create a grouping would allow us to have them either separately or with visible groups, but it didn't allow us to have just a space for those 4 groups. That would need a different group to remain.
That's a little obscure, but.
That's okay, no, that's, okay.
So if you use a grouping setting, you need to specify either they're separate or visible. So that's that little detail.
Yeah,
Otherwise, the grouping won't work, won't function.
Well, it works as a, if it's separate, it's separate.
you can't go back and forth, you can't have a grouping that's both separate, that's sometimes separate and sometimes.
Can you
both,
change the
obviously.
setting?
You can, yeah.
Yeah, you can change the settings. You can change the settings anytime. So if you place yourself in a group, it's probably helpful to place yourself within a group. So when you switch to student view, you're actually able to see what the students see. Because otherwise, especially if you have the assignment, there's a box when you create an assignment that says assignments only visible for group members. If you click that box and then you try to see it from a facilitator's view, you won't even be able to see the assignment. So once you switch to a student view. So if you want to be able to see what the students are truly going to see when they go to the web page, you want to place yourself within one of the groups. Even if you take yourself out later from the group when the assignment starts, temporarily place yourself within a group.
I have a special question about separate groups. I have groups that are making videos, and so I want them privately to be able to view their videos. So now I have them produced through MediaMill, but I can't see, you can't make a link through a forum to those videos. I guess you can. You can?
Yeah, you just use the link in your HTML editor.
So if I wanted to make a post with, let's reply to, so if I wanted to respond there and I wanted a link, I would just let's see if there's a video thing. Anyway, let's use yeah, this one. So if I wanted that video, I could copy that link, and I could do various things. I could just post it in there, or I could place link and hyperlink this text too. That's another way I could do it. So, and both of those will be active.
And you also can put in attachments.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
A student did that, she really shouldn't have, but how do I, where is that on there?
Down the bottom. I mean, when you're posting, yeah.
Choose file. So you could attach. If I downloaded that video, I could just upload it.
Okay.
And you could do that. I mean, uploading a video is not.
And that's obviously if a group were to eventually turn in a Word document, that's how they would do it. They could do it on their forum. But
Yes, they could, as an attachment.
there's an assignment function too. Clearly,
Right, it says upload a single file, and you can create groups in that too. So you could have separate groups in your assignment, and each group would have to, through that kind of they would have a little link that they would be able to upload, navigate to their computer, upload it. Then it puts it in your grade book, which we're going to talk about grade books. But that's really nice to have a show up there.
But yeah, if you attach an image, it'll just show the image itself, and that you could also have done that by embedding the image or linking the image. But that's another way to just have it as an attachment. If you add a file, it'll just have the little icon for the file so you can download the file. Unless it has a viewer for the file, it'll just let you download the file, depending on your intention. But yeah, you could, and you have 30 minutes, a person has 30 minutes to edit, so they could just come back and copy that in.
Have you been there? I've been there.
Is this fair?
No.
Well, the Ron's message said.
But it's not being used for instruction either. I mean, that'll be the decision of the students.
Our part of the world.
Um,
It's gonna be bad. Less than us.
So did you want to, when you created the groups or the forums, have for each group a link to the video so they could view it from them? Was that your
Yeah.
intention? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so when in your information, you could put it in there and then they could, each group could see it even though they'd be commenting in their own group.
And I mean, yeah, you could make the image a hyperlink too. So the way they could get to the video could be a number of ways. But you can link to a video. You could embed the video. Sometimes in a forum when I embedded a video, it just keeps spinning. The video won't load. But I have that option too. If I just rather, I mean, I wouldn't recommend that. I'd say they post the link, it's easier, and it clutters the forum a little bit less. But they could also.
Yeah, so I'm creating a group, so let's just. So,
So you,
how do I
embed
add?
it,
okay, so you created the group, okay, go back to where okay, so
and it didn't work
tab
well.
there.
So I had mixed experiences
These
with
are all
that.
my-
Like last time I had
These are the
it
groups
and
and
this
I
is
have all
not
of
good
them.
load.
We
So
want all
one
of
time
the-
it didn't work, but
Okay.
it's better to just.
So then, let's see.
I don't know
No,
why they're
no,
on
we-
mine.
Go back up and go groupings again. Okay, but if you,
Oh, what's that?
no. Did you see that? Try that edit. So where should,
How do I
Alfonso,
assign my groups to my groupings?
once she's created a grouping,
So the grouping
And
should
I've got
have.
my groups,
right,
how do I connect them?
If you go to the grouping page, it'll have
that's what we have.
an icon with like 3 little people
Ah,
in it. If you click
Yep.
the icon,
There it is,
it
okay.
should allow
thank
you
you.
to.
If you have a guest speaker from outside of the university, doesn't have a UMN, you can add them temporarily?
Yeah, you have to vouch for them, but you can create a temporary
Yeah.
X500, and from then you can just go to the ad user and search for that X500 and it'll be there. So Peter, and that's pretty much the same process you do to create a ghost account, a guest account. Just guess it goes both. There is a link. We can send you the link, but the man Moodle, yes. If you search, so you want to create a guest ID,
Oh, I
And you
want
want to add
and
a,
then you vouch for that person,
add a resource,
and
an activity.
an instructor then it'll send you to your UMN account a link saying you want this person to have a guest account. Click OK, and then they'll be able to be on the X500 system, and then from there it's just like,
How much in advance in time you have to do it? Can be done at the moment.
it'll take you at least a couple hours to do it in advance just to make sure that it's working. Sometimes the Moodle system takes a little bit of time. So depending when you create a guest account, I mean sometimes automatic, sometimes it takes a couple hours, but it wouldn't take more than a few hours.
There's, we'll put this on the website too, but the process is that when somebody goes to this guest user account page, and then they add some information. They have to have an email address. It's different than umn.edu, which is what they use, and then they put in your email as a sponsor. You get an email saying this person has asked for an account, and you say, yeah, they're legit, and then they get an email. Then they can go and log into Moodle. Once they do that, they're in the Moodle database, then you can add them to the course. So what do you?
Okay, so now I'm creating this forum for facilitators to be able to communicate with each other. Chances are they're just going to email each other, but you know, you can try. So I'm tempted to say that I will force them to be subscribed, so that if one person does post something,
They'll get a forum, they'll all get emails.
well, wouldn't it just be the people in the group? Once I divide it by groups?
As long as it's, if you
Here's
do
where
it
you
as
choose the format.
separate groups,
Separate
Four
groups,
different ones.
all right,
grouping,
and
cost
then-
facilitator groups.
okay.
Available for group members only? What exactly
So,
does that
so
mean?
Well,
participants can
that's,
decide, you can make it so that they all,
If you don't click that, then you won't be
So
able to
that's-
see it.
Okay.
I mean,
So you don't want to do that. Okay.
either optional or on are probably the best
So,
ways to go about it,
okay.
because you want it to be highlighted in some way.
So for instance,
Have
if
it
you
not
are
highlighted.
separate groups, but you
And
are
then
putting them in.
This may be important too,
grouping.
you don't want,
Right.
if
Okay,
you
what
want them
type
not
of
to
format
accidentally
do you
send you a video file and just link to it, you may want
Is
to,
this a
well,
general
Standard
form?
form.
if you don't have a file
So then they
that's
can
under
post
20 megabytes,
files
it's probably
to
going to
everybody.
be in the form.
When somebody makes a.
Probably I could see a reason for uploading a 20 megabyte file, but I don't think
Right,
nobody's
it can
really
just be
uploading
very free form.
4 gigabytes.
And every,
Then our
and you want
sensitivity
everybody to
to do a discussion of every.
Only-
all these groups.
Each group with each other.
So in
So I don't want them to
RSSP,
see any of the other groups.
Yeah, see, that's
You
what you
have
don't really need
Google,
for this. Grouping.
Google
Right, but
RSS,
eventually I'm gonna have another group.
or their
You have
RSS feeds,
another
it
group,
just
Mhm.
it'll allow people to.
So
So you- what you
what
need-
Alfonso was saying is if I don't make this a
you
grouping
should
now,
have, let's see.
when I create another group,
And create, that is a grouping.
I guess we'll have to.
You have to
then
create that
those
as a
groups
but
will be
they
able to
should have a way
see, it will get
to
mixed
their
up with
RSS.
this one.
That's true, unless you create that other group. But
Well,
that's all right. The question
the
is,
way
I would wonder about is, so say,
I used the ranking system before and it didn't work that well,
Is this in
but
the
you
workbooks
can have a rating
so
system.
you don't want,
You want,
you don't want
and,
anybody to have to subscribe at this point, because you know.
yeah, you could block. block
No, I
posts.
do, because
And then here
I'm
is
not gonna
what-
post
I mean,
anything, but if someone does
you
post,
have
I want
separate
our
visible.
viewers to be
If it's
able to
visible, again, you have the
Somebody
icon
has
at the top where you,
someone has posted. So
they are
that's
not all
easy
visible
for them to
automatically.
be
I
aware
mean,
of.
for instructor, yes, because you have, you see all participants.
But I think.
But
in
for
order to
students,
make sure
well,
this is
they'll have the top, the scroll bar, where they can select what group they want to see.
You
So it's
want
not
to.
that invasive, I mean, you're not
have
really
yourself
seeing
on those groups,
all the students' work,
and then
every student's not
go
seeing it,
as a
they'll see their
student
group. But if they
and
want to
see
peek
if that
into
group
another
that you
group,
add
they
yourself
can.
to shows up,
It's more of a peeking function, really.
and not
And then
others.
separate groups and
Or
you
and
look at
others.
any other students' work. And the groupings, yeah, in this case, if I didn't use groupings and I created separate groups, I mean, visible groups, then I'll show you what happens. But basically,
Alright, so now I'm in a group.
All right,
it creates duplicity.
So do
now
I have
what
to
is
view
this?
it as a student though?
yes,
How do I do that?
just go back up and say, change your switch role to student. Okay.
If I
Now we
create
don't
it this
know
way,
that.
it's visible, and so it has the all participants. But since I didn't use the grouping and I had two sets of groups, they're both here.
Session 5.
And what happens is
Okay.
that the student is both part of
That's
maroon
all.
and part of group 5. And
Okay.
that's
So that
why
means
you
you
want to
have-
have,
And so you,
you
you
do
only
go with
want
more than one
people-
set of groups, have groups.
Now, when you're in group
Ah.
5,
Mhm. I only want to
Plus-
see stuff for
And
group.
then here is where you should, let's see, so you can subscribe via email.
I did it?
I think that's it. Because it,
Well, how can you be sure?
And I will get back to
Well,
you
I
on the
don't
RSS
wanna
feed
you,
because,
Five.
the thing,
Well, I can take myself out of group 5.
I don't see the book, the,
no, but it says, this
What
is
if group
session,
six
but
did
the session
something?
5 is what? What does that mean?
The session 5 meeting the 5th week of class.
That's what you named the group?
Mhm.
Okay, then that's right. So you are a member of session 5 facilitators,
Mhm.
right? And
I could post, I could make one more group, session 16, which doesn't exist, and put myself in there and post something, see if I can see it there.
yeah,
I mean, I
don't see.
could probably do that if I really wanted to.
But
But otherwise, I'm not gonna do
An RSS
For sure,
Well, I
until
see
people
the
start
description
posting
by
stuff.
email,
But as an
but I haven't
instructor,
seen
I'd be able to
RSS.
see it all.
Link to it.
And then at some
So-
point, I could just stick myself in one of
And
my
nobody's
groups,
really
posted
asked me
something,
to
and
use
make
the
sure
tool,
that,
so I'll see if we
you
offer
But
them
you could also
functionality,
do
because
this, I mean, you could
sometimes
post
it
something.
comes standard with
I mean,
Google,
not
we don't
have-
have it.
because right now they're subscribed, so I can put, hey guys, just testing out the Moodle,
take them, say, the force that you described now, as you
Okay,
do
take them
this.
off?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that too.
And then,
So-
you can always delete it. So you can do that just to make sure that it's working. But that should work, yeah.
Okay.
That's no different than if you didn't have them in a grouping and had separate groups.
Yes,
This point.
that's, at this point, I totally get that.
Okay.
Yes, I get that. I just,
You're just
it
preparing
sounds
it
like,
for it.
yeah, it's a framework.
It's a framework, right. You said, okay, I'm gonna build this wall around them.
Yep, and
So
then
that
there's
when
gonna
I
be
add
another.
that they're not gonna interfere with that.
Yeah.
And that's.
Well, in
that's
this
fine.
case,
So
we
what are the
allow
other
to
useful
almost have
things you
just
can
a
do
hierarchical system,
besides
you know, in the
discussion
sense
boards?
that they're both
Well, you
functioning as
You
groups.
can, for instance, if you wanna
Like in
do,
this case, the group can only be
assignments.
between students. You can only make a grouping Moodle with
I
students. And then a grouping can have a
One of the
collection
things
of
that
groups.
I just,
So it's really, it's also a group. It's not really a grouping, it's just a group composed of
of course.
Okay,
So, for
in
instance,
Moodle
if you,
terms.
you,
I'm gonna take my.
you gotta change your role back.
Group is something more different.
And the group is only students. So you can only, it's a group, but it's composed of students. So you couldn't compose
And
a
then
group of other.
You're gonna add an activity.
To do that, you need to use a group.
So say you want,
This is so interesting because we do this on paper all the time, so.
yeah, you can do it, you create questions and,
Okay, so just tell me since I'm not gonna do it
okay,
yet.
yeah. All right, so go, so you
So if I
just,
wanted to do like mid-semester feedback,
yeah, you just put in there, this is feedback I'd like to receive from you for this semester, blah, blah, blah. And then going down to, and then,
oh, neat.
so you can choose the date that you want it to. They could be anonymous. Okay. And then,
I get to choose.
yeah. Right. And then,
Yeah, no, they should be able to, you can only can have a file, you can make an X file to account, a folder. Anything that has a hyperlink, because you can add it to the forum,
no.
a link or anything.
Yes, yes, you can. So here, for instance, if
So
you wanted feedback from specific groups about an assignment,
Yeah.
how is this assignment you have?
If it's a link,
Find out.
uh,
And you can do this, right? Separate groups, for instance.
because you won't.
Here are no groups because you want everybody to
Just open a
respond.
different tab or a window.
Now, when you
It'll be
save
I mean,
this, you have to
when you're
create
then talking
questions.
about
When
opening.
you create the questions, then the
With the
students
frames
and the
and the
answers,
apps,
and
you
you
may
get
go into
all the
stuff like
feedback.
that, do anything, but if they're just going to the normal window,
Listed, and you can analyze it, or you can teach us.
And they can't see each other's feedback? That's part of the feature of the feedback. Well, that would actually be a good reason to use the question, or I don't know, what one of the forums where you can't see the other answer until you do your own.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
just kind of informal feedback.
But here, that's not an issue because they're all going to be separate.
you have any other related.
Right, and in this case,
No.
you wouldn't want them to see each other's, but
No,
there
but you could let them see each other.
Okay.
But you don't. We should go over that next time. There's a feedback activity that you can use to get feedback from students and create questions in it, and it works pretty well. But that's for another time. Well, we're out of time, so.
And there's a survey function too, which could be,
But that's,
it's not good, okay.
you can't, it has a pre-scripted survey that doesn't really,
You can't change that.
no, but the feedback, you can't change that. In 2.0 you can change it, but in 1.9 you can't. But the feedback works great, I think, for doing that, for getting feedback from your students.
Good, that's really good.
All right.
Now I have my foreign the way that I wanted it. That was my big question. I missed the whole groupings piece, or I missed the separate. I didn't know exactly what that meant. So
Yeah.
yay.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, both of you.
lake house we borrowed from Google Images.
Yeah, that was the one that.
You wanna go there?
I did say, yeah.
Nice.
Can you know, it said, that the MOV file we were trying to upload that was rendered by Camtasia is not a valid file in MediaMill?
You could see it. Did it say that again?
Yeah. So I think we have to try to render it as a different file.
And convert it. We can do it in Dacia, we can just convert that file with an external converter too.
Well, you could, although you should do it upload a new file.
You should be able to.
Yeah. So I don't think it's that. I think it's it's rendered as a .mov, but I think there's some kind of something else in there. But we might have trouble with that index. So I have to go out, I got a doctor's appointment, but I'll be back around that. But if you wanna, you can work. Well, you gotta go though.
Yeah, I got one thing, but no, I think both ways the